share again about the beautiful, beautiful book which you've written about brain, minds, and the different inspiration stories?
Yes, of course. So this book was me interviewing the teachers that are friends or colleagues or
Mhm.
bosses that I've had, people who've done wonderful things and are entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And these people have helped me grow, or I have worked towards helping their businesses grow.
Wow.
And they all have a different view of thinking about what do I do with my lifetime and
Mm-hmm.
how am I contributing to shaping business and society. And
This is so
so
amazing.
each chapter is about one person's life story
Mm-hmm.
and why they're doing what they're doing. And many of them are just like you and me, Ria,
Okay.
like young people who are trying to change, like contribute to shaping economy or
Mhm.
society in a certain way with all our activities.
This is so nice, and it's like it's a collection of all the inspiring stories which helped you be the person you are today. So this is, I think, like so cool. Okay,
And
so now we know about this beautiful book, and I would ask our viewers to just go through it. It's available on Amazon, and it's one of a kind. So, you will hear Yip's story throughout this life, and let's continue to the next question. And if the audience has any questions, please free to ask in the comment sections. So now my next question would be, you have learned so many different types of meditation that can you kind of give us a walkthrough what that was like, and how you use the different kinds of meditation for different aims in your life?
yes, so I started off with breathing meditation.
Okay.
And breathing meditation is just a mind, like awareness of breathing,
Mm-hmm.
the way I learned it. And this is where you kind of build the skill to understand how your body and your breathing are moving, like, flowing rhythmically or naturally with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a very simple technique to bring yourself back to the present moment without any fancy instruments or tools,
Yeah.
right? Because breathing is always with you. And as long as you're breathing, you know you're alive.
Yeah.
It's kind of do it anywhere, wherever you are when you have a free minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I also did some meditations with, light and sound and
Mm-hmm.
laughing meditation with movement.
Okay.
Because for people like me with a very, you know, un, a mind that is not so calm, I would say my
Yeah.
mind is
Mine
much like a
too.
mind. And when when I have this monkey mind,
Mm-hmm.
it's very difficult sometimes to sit and be still,
Yeah.
and it feels like torture. Basically, sitting meditation isn't sometimes not so fun. So I thought about, is there any way to get into a meditative state
Mm-hmm.
using music and movement
Mm-hmm.
and calming down the body first
Mm-hmm.
before calming down the mind, and
Mm-hmm.
to reach that state of calm, peaceful mind and a focused state through like through movement.
Okay.
And I also tried meditation with um, different sounds that I create,
Mm-hmm.
and meditation with music
Mm-hmm.
and so on. So there's so many different types of meditation,
Mm-hmm.
but I think ultimately it comes back to understanding what you need,
Mm-hmm.
what your maybe brain preference is,
Yes.
and what is just fun for you so that you can keep on practicing. It's like sports. There's so many
Definitely.
different ways of sports.
Wow. So I have a question follow up. Like, I know the answer, but these questions are for more or for our audience. So do you have like a playlist for each kind of state? Like, do you have a playlist of music which helps you sleep, and a different playlist which helps you focus, and maybe so on for different, let's say, state you want to achieve?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Um, it helps
Mm-hmm.
to have your own playlist.
Mm-hmm.
For example, right now I'm producing 36 micro meditation tracks. They are 3 minutes each,
Wow.
and it's a 6 weeks program.
Okay.
So 6 days a
Yes.
week, you get three different 3 minutes of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And Monday, for example, I call it Miracle Monday,
Mm-hmm.
and this is more euphoric music.
Okay.
And then on Tuesday, it's Getting Things Done
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday. And this meditation has a music that is more geared towards, a bit more focused meditation in the way I think focus works for me. And Wednesday is more like a gratitude Wednesday. So it's mellow. And Thursday is the throwback Thursday. So the music is more nostalgic. So to think back to what have I achieved already this week and what do I want to work on tomorrow? And Friday is Freedom Friday, and where I want people to reflect on their values. So I have music that is more geared towards, more opening the space.
Okay.
So there are different types of music, but ultimately, I do think every person has different preferences. And I know at Neuphony you do quite a lot of work and research towards what is the right music style for the practitioner, right?
Yes. So the aim is exactly this, that every brain is different. Like you take on a day approach, we take on a more morning, evening, or even as a day approach. So it's basically whatever the user wants to experience. Sometimes for some people, Monday to Wednesday are easy to go through, and Thursday and Friday start to feel very overwhelming. And for some people, it's the complete other way around. So this is amazing actually. What you are doing with the 6 months leadership program. Great.
I think if you should habit every day of doing a little bit of meditation, then ultimately you develop a habit.
Yes, yes, definitely. But I would also want to know about the different meditation techniques you learned. So I remember you traveled to a lot of places just to learn meditation techniques from the authentic gurus. So can you share something about that as well?
So I started off learning from Buddhists,
Yes.
Zen Buddhists, and they focus very much on just the breathing. I then learned, and they get very technical about the breathing. There's some things such as the 16 steps towards understanding the breathing and then getting and playing with it so much that you basically get full absorption.
Yeah.
I learned with a school that is more focused towards connection. Like that is kind of a deeper absorption, and it just goes. I mean, there's different schools. Some schools think it's about more like being aware in every moment, and by that merging into the present moment.
Okay.
Other schools focus more on, connecting with what they call the divine. And then there are schools that focus on what they would call energetic transmission.
Yeah.
So there are people who are trained in a certain way of meditation, who are then basically capable of giving you an energy boost while you're meditating. So that helps you to get into meditative state. There's so many different ones. The way I do it right now is just really understanding what is it that in the present moment my body needs to feel, and my mind needs to let go.
Wow.
That is all that matters. So no need to, finding the right music, finding the right light, because some schools even focus on giving you different light colors to help you get into certain states.
Wow.
I think none of them is wrong. The question is what is available to me right here and now.
Exactly. And which suits me more, basically. And
Yeah.
so this was the first phase of your life, and then you eventually started learning about brain training, neurofeedback, because then you wanted to get into the science behind all of these things. So how has neurofeedback helped you become a better coach or even a better, let's say, meditation professional?
Yeah. Neurofeedback
Yep, your voice, I am not able to hear you.
Okay.
Yes, now it's good.
Better now?
Yes.
Was quite, a revolution. So neurofeedback is quite a revolution to my way of approaching learning and the arts of learning. Because what happened was, what it does is basically you use technology as a mirror.
Yes.
Right. And what you do is you can in real time interact with
Yeah.
your body indicators or signals. And it's just like somebody's holding you a mirror, but it's not a visual mirror only. It's a mirror that also can show different activities that are happening in your brain as you are looking at it.
Yeah.
Which is quite cool.
Yes.
So you can basically see what happens when you close your eyes. And then you can see how in certain parts of the brain, activity shuts down, right? It becomes slower.
Yes.
And what happens when you think of a stressful situation, and then you can see how the brain, certain parts of the brain, get more active. And when you basically know yourself better and how it reacts, and not only, you know, over a longer period, but also in the present moment, you can play with it very, very precisely. So it boosts up your learning because you're learning on the spot. And it's like when you are meditating, sometimes, for example, what you're doing is you're waiting for the mind to calm down. And when you try to focus, when you train focus in the meditation, what you try to do is catch the brain, the mind wandering. So now sometimes when you're very much a beginner, like I am a beginner in certain ways, sometimes it takes you 10 minutes or 15 minutes until you realize, oh my goodness, I'm not here in the present moment, but my mind went away and I was in the future or in the past ruminating around. And with the neurofeedback, what happens is you get a signal, right? It happens almost like it happens in a split second, that you get a signal that, hey, you're not in that zone anymore, that you defined as a zone that you want to train to be in. So that's about it.
So this is actually, I know about neurofeedback, but the example you gave it, and the more I think about it, I'm like, damn, that's such a good example, because it's exactly like looking in a mirror, and this is not a way like I have ever communicated and or expressed, but this is like perfect. Thank you so much for giving me this example of neurofeedback. Now, if I go to the next question, is that you are a high C-suite executive coach as well. How do you use these two techniques, which is meditation and neurofeedback, while coaching people who are the CEOs, COOs, or high-level executives of very big companies?
Yeah, I think what is very important typically for people, but in general, but the more so for decision makers at C-level to understand, is they always want to know how things work, right? What is the basic mechanism behind a meditation? Why would meditation work? Or why would this and this happen? They want to know things, basic reasonings or mechanisms, principles. So it's very helpful to explain, how brain functionality is, and give basic understanding of different brain structures. What part of the brains are responsible, for example, for regulating certain things, cognitive processes? What parts of the brain are parts of the brains that react when you are in emotional tension, for example, when you're experiencing a trigger.
Yeah.
And so it's very important to just show. And there's a lot of research about that. So neurofeedback in general, and meditation, it's nothing voodoo, right? It's very well researched by now. And the second thing is then to show how it's actually affecting oneself. So you can, like I said earlier, when you put on the sensors and then you ask people to close their eyes, you could see how the brain shuts down. And for some people, sometimes maybe you see even closing the eyes won't lead to calming of the system, but sometimes it gets them into even a higher state of activity. So you want to look and see what's behind it, and what can we actually do to bring ourselves down or up.
Exactly.
And you can see it in trial and error. And it's just a very precise way of showing the effect, you have on your own system. And I think it's very powerful. Yeah.
Wow, wow. So this is amazing. So, have you seen some change in yourself as a coach before and after this neurofeedback experience? So, do you think that this has helped you grow as a coach as well?
Well, I do think for sure that I understood how complex the brain is. It doesn't work like, we are a very
Yes.
complex system,
Yes.
and we don't work like this. If if we were able to very precisely um, tell our brain what to
Mhm.
do, I could tell myself now to go sleep, right? To
Yeah.
reduce brain activity, to go into low state, into delta. But it doesn't work like this. And it took me quite a long time even to understand what does it mean for me, for example, to be in low beta, in a
Mhm.
calmer, like not too calm, but not
Mhm.
too relaxed, but slightly relaxed and slightly focused state, right?
Mhm.
Low beta.
Yeah.
And it took me quite a while to understand what that actually means and how does really relaxation feel, because it wasn't, what I had thought would be relaxing for me
Mhm.
wasn't really what the brain activity
Mhm.
would show. And so I had to really learn how to differentiate between the different states, to unpack certain belief systems I had about
Yes.
my own being,
Mhm.
and to get back to the basics and really train myself also to be more able to go to move between different states. And I mean,
Wow.
this is not only helpful in general, it was not only helpful for me, but I think it should be a skill that every human being should have access to, either with neurofeedback or without neurofeedback. But
Yes.
when we want to get into focus, we should be able to do that. And when we want to relax, we should be able to do so, right, in an ideal world. But
Definitely.
unfortunately, it's not like this today.
Actually, having a control over your mind is a skill I built because of my traumatic experiences, and this is something I've seen in a lot of people with a lot of people that generally they are at the worst phase, I would like to say, of their lives, and now they wanted to build resilience, and that is when they kind of looked into meditation. It could be bankruptcy, it could be family oriented, it could be anything, and that is when people kind of resorted to meditation, mindfulness, for slowly initially calming just their thoughts down, and over a period of time they build these skills which help them control their emotions in a place of work, or think professionally in a place where they should be um family oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something which I have like heard like a lot of stories. Generally, I like knowing why people got into meditation, why people got into neurofeedback, and I think 99% of the time I have heard stories, it's generally because of like these experiences. So one thing I would like to ask you is how, because for a leader where a person is at such a high level position, there are a lot of skills that you need to have or build to be able to survive. This is something my I have a startup, but I have to be at the I have to have very very good time management, otherwise it just cannot work. I need to make sure that I have a working memory so that I can remember all the different tasks, because sometimes no matter how many reminders I have, no matter how many places I have put the sticky notes, I have a meeting, if I don't have it actively in my brain, it can get impacted. And there are like so many different things, decision making, negotiation. How when these leaders come to you for coaching, how do you help them build these skills? So we can go one at a time. So first is decision making.
Yeah. So one is, are you able, like, do you see clarity,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that you can make the right decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to see clearly, one needs to get into a certain state of, calmness,
Mm-hmm.
mental, so that you can have something I call mental clarity.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help when you're like super agitated, because why? When you're super stressed, your focus gets narrow, and you cannot really see the entire picture. So you
Yes.
want to relax a little bit more and see what is important to do from different perspectives. So in coaching, typically what I do is first help people, ground, do a little meditation, a little bit of anchoring of the breathing, and then look analytically at certain dimensions. So one is, for example, the bird's perspective.
Yeah.
You imagine you're a bird and you fly up and you look down onto the situation. What can you actually see? What are the patterns, like the relationships, the stakeholders, the how do you say, the challenges, and then you can also look at what is the time pattern that is in there. So that is the first dimension. The second dimension you look at is the outside in perspective.
Okay.
So you would want to see, if I were on the ground in the action field, looking at myself, what would I see? What would my colleagues say about this? What would my negotiation partner say about that?
Yeah.
What would my wife say, or my husband say about that? What would my child say about that? And so you let people, it's like empathy or perspective taking is that skill. Analyze it. And then also obviously, and most likely we start with that dimension. So I told you now backwards the story. You would start inside out first. So the third level you would look at is the inside out perspective. So me and the coachee, we would look at the situation from the coachee's perspective, like from a very integrated perspective. So, what are your thoughts? But this is just the first level. It's super easy, right? Everybody thinks about things all the time.
Yeah.
But then also, what are your feelings towards this?
Yes.
Where in your body are you actually experiencing these things? You try to build something I call integrated intelligence. It's like the mind, the body, the emotions. And so you look at the entire situation. Now I told you, like from inside out, from outside in, and then from the bird's eye perspective.
Yeah.
So that you make sure you try to engage all the senses that are available and information data available to you.
Wow. Okay, so I have to say one thing. I love the way you explain things. I loved it when we met personally, and the way you kind of give examples and your words, amazing. So I have a question here. So can you also explain this in the sense of brainwaves? So if is there a particular set of, like, as you said, to be able to have good decision making skills, you need to be more calm and relaxed. Taking a decision when you're angry or emotional is not a good idea. So can we say this in perspective of the brainwaves? Like in this current state, your brainwaves, this set is desired?
So let me take one step back, because the way I learned neurofeedback is that, emotions are not easily measurable through the cortex, right? This is my understanding of neurofeedback, and it might be obsolete because it might not be a newest state of science. What you can measure is basically activity patterns, and activity as in two levels: intensity and speed. Right? Frequency. And then in frequency, we have different states, from slow, like super sluggish, or delta. We call it delta. This is like from 0 to 4 hertz, when your brain basically is sleeping. And then it goes faster to alpha, to theta, when you're kind of slowly awake, sluggish awake. And then you have alpha, where you are relaxed. Then you have beta, where you are focused. And you have gamma, where you're extremely focused. And very difficult to measure with typical devices, non-clinical devices, basically. And what happens is also, when you go from slow to fast, I would say the focus narrows. So when you're super tired and so on, you have very open focus. When you are more focused and more when you are faster, the focus narrows, right? So you would think fastest is hyper focused, and super open, creative, spaced out is like almost sleeping. So very broad, open thinking. So when you want to, for example, work on something, that's just the way I look at neurofeedback. When you want to reflect open-mindedly and very creatively about things, you would want to be in a more relaxed and a more slower brain activity. When people almost are asleep and very tired, their focus is loose, So it's very difficult to do like, calculations and so on when you have to crack Excel sheets. But it would be not so difficult to think about things in a very broad and creative way. When you need to actually do work that requires a lot of attention to detail and just structure work down, like, model an Excel sheet or something, a business model, then it's better to be in a faster, in a more activated brain frequency, so that you can bring up, let's say, the speed to get things done. And it just like you need to be able to navigate between these different brain activities.
Okay.
Did it help? I
Yes,
don't know.
yes, definitely. It was, it's very informative for the audience because they can understand that you gave like a very simple perspective to brain, which is very nice because it's very complex and not very easy to understand. And they know that these skills can kind of be understood in very, not that what emotion you're going through, but yes, this is what is happening in this intensity it is happening with. So I will take you to the next skill which a leader would need, and it is attention. It is attention span, or being
Yeah.
better listeners, because I think that is very very important.
So attention span, I think this is something in neurofeedback. There has a lot of there have been has been a lot of research on that. So you can train, and focus would typically be something we call like the low beta to the beta state. So
Yes.
fast brain activity. And the what you want to do there is identify how you can get into a focused state, right? What does it take for you to keep the mind on one thing? And you can basically train, of course, with neurofeedback. You can also train to build up this attention span muscle when you do focused meditation. Like whenever your breathing goes away, your mind wanders away from, for example, the breathing, then you bring it back, and you want to reward yourself, not for keeping the focus, but rather for bringing back the mind to the present moment every time it wanders, because it's like a push-up.
Yeah.
So it's not a plank exercise, but you train yourself doing many, many push-ups. And the more push-ups you are able to do, the stronger your muscle gets. And the stronger as an output, your attention span grows. So this is the idea behind it. And what was the other one? And perspective taking?
It was better listener.
Exactly. So this I compare typically to a glass of water. So just imagine your mind is this cup of water, and there's water inside, and then you fill up water with a lot of information every day, like lots of tasks and exercises, and at some point in time it's full, and it cannot absorb anything new anymore. So when the two of us are having a conversation, it's very unlikely that I'm able to take in what you are telling to me, because my mind is full. So what I want to do is empty the cup, right? Take out the water, drink the tea, whatever you want to call it. And the question is how to do that effectively so that you don't get to the point where you cannot absorb anything more. So what you can do is, for example, that's what I do a lot of times is, or tell my clients to do, is we do journaling. We just write without stopping the pen. So the exercise is called stream of consciousness. And people just write whatever comes to their mind, and it's just like a cleansing exercise, so that you can read what you wrote, you empty out all these unnecessary worries and thoughts and so on that come through your mind, and then you have capacity again, mental capacity to listen to others, to take in different perspectives, because when you are full, it's impossible to be a good listener.
Yes. This one example I love the most because this is what I tell to a lot of people sometimes, and especially for the past few days, sometimes we are so in our head that we are not good listeners, when we are good not listeners, when we cannot be really empathetic because we might not know the person's whole story. And there are so many different perspectives to it, and for me the best is jotting everything down, because I am a planner. I write everything. I plan my whole week Sunday night, what I have to do in this week, what I have to achieve out of this week. And this is something I personally feel that this has helped me a lot. So thank you for actually bringing out surprisingly. And the last would be time management and time and stress management, basically, because I feel for an entrepreneur, for an executive, these two things are very much correlated. So how can a leader manage these two things?
Mhm. I think the most important thing is upfront to be very clear about why am I doing what I'm doing. So this is the strategic part about it, right? Why, like, what activities did I plan and what are they paying towards? What goal are they paying towards? And is that the relevant goal? So this, I think, is the first step. And the second one is, in my view, it's more effective to manage energy rather than time. So that again may be linked to the brain activity states that we talked about earlier.
Yes.
There are certain activities that require you to be more creative and connecting dots and so on. And then there are certain activities that need you to be very spot on, precise, and be very focused. So I typically work out with my coaches, at what stage of the day would they be in what kind of mental activity state.
Yeah.
And so we can figure out how to assign certain states with certain tasks. So that is one way to make your calendar and your activities more effective, because it's geared or aligned with your mental resources that you have available. So that would be one way to look at it, analytically, and then getting things done. And the second thing is, obviously, you'd never be able to get everything done as an entrepreneur or as a top leader, because there's always more tasks than one can do.
Yes.
Right? So I tend to ask myself, and also encourage others to ask themselves, what happens if I don't finish this activity? What would be the consequence of it? And if we're very honest with ourselves, typically nothing bad happens.
Yes.
Even the things we think are very terrible that might happen, you might lose your job. But really, what happens if you lose your job? Right? What happens, what is the downside of being stressed? It might mean you're losing your family, because you're losing yourself. You're not there with your children, with your partners, and at one point in time, you're not able to be present with them even when you're home, because you're so stressed for work. And is it the price you want to pay for it? And if not, what is then, compared to the other risk of not being a high performer at work, what would that be compared to that? And typically people come to the insight, or the realization that, oh my goodness, I need to spend more energy, I need to preserve more energy to invest into environments and relationships that give me energy and love and care, so that I have more energy available to invest into doing these other things at work. It's just a rethinking and redesigning of your daily activities, and taking out stress factors out of your daily life.
Okay, this one is really amazing, and I loved the exercise which you gave in the first part, because I feel this is very important. Like, I can give an example from my own life. I am a very active person in the morning, and after 10 or 11, I am very, my mind kind of shuts down. So I go into a very tired phase. There was this one day where I wasn't able to do my high priority tasks in the morning, and I had to send out a few emails. And very frankly, it the emails I wrote the point was conveyed, but they were not the best emails I would have sent out. And the next morning I was like, oh my god, why am I using this language? It's not that it's wrong, it's just that it's not who I am as a person. Like, I would have framed the email in a nicer and a cleaner manner for the person in front to read. He might not have got confused. So this one activity I think is very useful, and I'm gonna try myself. And the second thing which you said was, this is a skill I learned the hard way. I For me, it is very difficult to understand that I cannot tick every task off my checklist and I have to let it go to tomorrow and not get anxious about it. So this is something for me which was very difficult to do in the beginning. If I have planned something, I have to do it irrespective of the uncertain things which came during the day. So I think this is one skill, as you rightly said, entrepreneurs have to learn, because there is no way that you're gonna finish everything that you planned in the 2 days and nothing new will come.
Yeah. And this is where mindfulness comes in very handy, right?
Yes.
It's like when you realize how anxious you become and how it emerges in the present moment when you think of your to-do list, then you basically have already all the data necessary to make a decision of letting go. And the second step to mindfulness is becoming friends or be at peace with not being, at the peak of your being at the moment, the same as you mentioned with your emails.
Yes.
Yeah, one way is to say, yes, next time I'll do it the next day. Another way to look at it is like, that was me in that moment, and today I would make the decision differently, but at that moment I just didn't know.
Exactly.
And so being like very compassionate with yourself
Yes.
again, and that takes out all the stress from the situation.
Oh my
In
God, thank you
hindsight.
so much actually for saying that, because there are both ways and both ways are correct. So I should not stress about that I have to do this today. And if I do it and if it's not at the best, then I should be compassionate with myself that it's okay even if I did some mistake, because I'm human and I have to be, I have to first accept myself. Only then these kind of changes can happen. Oh my God, Diep, thank you so much for sharing these with us. These were amazing, amazing, amazing insights. One last question we generally have for the live is, there's a story, there's an example for an entrepreneur who which is always close to their heart. Um, so is there a story where meditation or neurofeedback helped one of the people you know, one of your clients, one of the coaches, change their life? Like, it was amazing for you as a coach to be proud of that person's journey. So can you share something like this with us?
I think it's for me, it's been my own journey,
Yes.
you know, how I was somebody who was always very self-critical because I kind of ambitious and wanted to do everything perfectly, to the moment where I was really looking at myself in the mirror and looking at me and observing my mind. So this is like an exercise, right? Seeing how I'm talking to myself while I'm looking at the mirror. Obviously, not talking like this, but like
Yeah,
the inner
like
chat.
yeah.
And to realize how unfriendly I was to myself. I was looking and I was seeing, oh, my hair is not well done. Oh,
Yeah.
your eyebrows not so
Yes.
correct.
Oh
And
God.
your shoes, oh my gosh, they are not clean. How can this be? And all of a sudden I was hearing this and I
Yeah.
brought up this mindfulness to hear it
Wow.
and to let it sit. Like, I was like really surprised and very sad about the way I spoke to myself. And that was the first moment to realize, hey, actually, why are you doing this to yourself? What does it take to become your best friend? How would the world be like if you looked at yourself and
My God.
you just thought, hey, you're beautiful.
Yes.
You're beautiful as you are. Nothing is perfect, but hey, this is who you are in this very present moment. And let's enjoy, let's be friends for that, right? We don't need to be perfect to be friends with ourselves. And this, I mean, it sounds like this, but it was obviously a long journey to remind myself to listen to my inner chatter, to let go, to be peace with it, to understand where it comes from, and to find nice ways to treat myself with respect. And I think this has been like a tremendous journey. And obviously, it's also what I do in the coaching work with others, because I realized it's not only my problem, but many people are going through the same, unconsciously being very destructive to themselves.
Yeah.
And then step by step, letting go of all these anger and expectations towards oneself and becoming more, a happy and a light and a joyful person.
Oh, wow. So, firstly, thank you for sharing this story, because I can think of 100 people who need to learn this. who need to kind of accept themselves and love themselves, because I believe the best you can be is only possible when you start loving yourself. And once you do that, then you become another person which you would want to be proud of. So for that, you have to trust yourself first. And thank you so much for sharing this story of all the ones you have.
Thank you so much, Ria. You are like, a guiding light or a beacon of light. So much joy and passion for what you're doing and for helping others grow. I feel very, inspired by being part of the journey of yours.
Thank you so much, Yip. So, for all our audience, Yip is there on LinkedIn. She uh, provides meditation, mindfulness, coaching, and a lot of other things. You should check out her newest venture, which is